Studies have shown that preschools aid a child's development, and students who have attended preschools have a higher graduation rate than those who have not attended preschool. Now, researchers also suggest that students who attend preschools are unlikely to be put into special education schemes. In Ghana, however, many children are missing this opportunity due to poverty. Tonight on PM Express, we are focusing on how to deal with challenges impeding children from having preschool education to increase enrollment in preschools. I have some wonderful people in the studio and I'll introduce them after the break. Welcome back. It's PM Express, and in the studio to do the discussion is Madiz Adamu Isa. He is education specialist with UNICEF, and Fako Disu is programs officer and national coordinator, Basic Education Division. He's actually national coordinator for development communication at the Basic Education Division at the Ghana Education Service. Gentlemen, you're welcome on PM Express. So refreshing to see you.
Thank you.
And looking at the topic we're discussing tonight, very interesting topic. We've had issues with what age of children or at what age one is supposed to start preschool. And in Ghana, I think it's been a very huge challenge for us to deal with, because a lot of people don't send their children to school early. We're looking at our tradition and we're saying that, oh, you have all the time, why don't you take care of the child to attain a certain age before you take the child to school? So at what age is right for the child to start preschool? I'll start with you, Madiz.
Thank you. The term preschool is generic. And if you say preschool, it means everything from birth up to when the child starts school.
Okay.
That's why maybe sometimes there's some confusion.
Okay.
Because the preschool age spans creche, nursery, kindergarten, which we call KG.
Okay.
So for the education sector, their preschool is a KG part.
Yes.
We start from 4 years.
Okay.
That is what the law
So should
says.
a child start school from 4 years?
Yes, and 4 years, that's KG is part of the basic system.
Okay.
So if you're talking about the Ministry of Education and KG, then it starts from 4 years. 2 years of KG, 6 years of primary school, and 3 years of junior high school.
Amazingly, we've seen trends of, for instance, ages between 6 to 13 being in KG, and I'm sure this will block the chance for other children at the right age too. So, of course, there are a million reasons why people should have preschool education. Yeah. What are some of the benefits?
There are several benefits for the child, for the family, for the school, for the nation as a whole. For the child, it prepares him or her for primary school. So by the time the child enters primary school, he's already used to a school system, to a formal system. That makes him settle in school easily. That makes him compete equally with other people who also attended KG.
Okay.
Talking about parents, it allows parents to work, especially for mothers who need to work. It gives them the chance to keep the child somewhere in a safe environment while they go to work.
Okay.
KG also allows siblings to go to school, older siblings. If there are girls at home, most often they tend to take care of children, and which means that they themselves lose out on schooling or on whatever they're supposed to do. So KG allows children, older siblings, to go to school. Okay. There are also other things for the nation as a whole. So that's where we start socializing children. That's where we start preparing them for schooling and for the future. So KG has a lot of benefits. These are just a few that I can mention.
Okay. Fako, We've had some of these challenges in Ghana because of infrastructure, and we know that in many of the primary schools you don't see KG we don't have it. We don't have classroom blocks. I listened to the education minister, and he talks about over 1,000 primary schools that do not have KGs. We don't have conducive environment for the people, and even where we have, the school blocks are weak. We've witnessed Bremen, German recently, where the school block collapsed and killed some children. It's a terrible thing. How many KG facilities do we have currently across the country?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity and for the question. Speaking about infrastructure, as you rightly said, some KGs, some primary schools, ideally every primary school is expected to have a KG attached,
right.
a KG department attached, but unfortunately that is not the case in every primary school nationwide. And that brings about the difference that you spoke about, referring to the Deputy Minister, and 1,000 of kindergartens
I
that
think
need
1,171.
Yes, yeah. But the good news is that government is committed to providing or filling that gap, and at least 80 of these KGs are under constructions and at various stages of completion. So that should send a signal that government is working at addressing that infrastructure gap.
So are you saying that currently, what are the figures? Do we have how many do we have across the country, and how many do we need to add on?
No, the figures is in the region of over 1,000. That is the gap which needs to be constructed,
okay,
to ensure that every primary school has a KG attached. Okay. And then, yes, to respond to the need.
But do we know how many we have, and do we know exactly which regions or where they are?
Those figures are there, but I don't have them immediately with me now. So we can continue the conversation later. We can fill you in regarding the exact figures.
Okay, so and of course, so the gap is over 1,000.
Yeah.
So that's what we need to fill.
Yeah.
So what steps have you taken so far?
That is what I said, that government is constructing, at least for now, 80 kindergartens.
Okay.
And that is significant considering what has to go into it.
Okay.
So that is one major step being undertaken by government to address that infrastructure.
So if I say what steps, I'm looking at what stages are we now with this construction?
Oh, they are at various stages of completion. And so, well, it's unfortunate I don't have those details with me. However, the details can be obtained from the Ministry of Education. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But,
yes, so
I mean, basically, are we making progress?
Definitely. I guess you might be aware that today the second lady commissioned one of the KGs in Aguna Nyakrom.
Right.
Is one of them, and that is an indication that efforts are really on ground. Yes, so various stages, various districts and communities.
Let me come to you, Madiz. I know UNICEF, you've been doing a lot of research in this area. How has the trend been like? I mean, the start enrollment age or start right age, how has the trend been over the years?
There's been so much progress. And coming from UNICEF, I think we're happy with where we are now as compared to what the situation was maybe some 10 years ago.
Okay.
Because if you look at it in terms of what age children should start, about 75–76% of the children are in KG at the right age.
Okay.
Which means that at least 25% of them are not in at all. And there are so many overage children, but at least the fact that we have 75% gives us hope that we can reach somewhere. You know, with KG, there are challenges, with even infrastructure, it is the school is not close to where the child is. There's a challenge because you not allow your 4-year-old child to walk 3 or 4 or 5 kilometers to school.
Okay.
So these are some of the challenges, and we think that reaching 100% will be a big challenge.
Okay.
But at least we've made some progress. We shouldn't rest, but at least we've got somewhere.
So the issue has been that poverty has been named as one of the reasons we found ourselves here. The reason why we are all trying to ensure that people now understand the reason why they should enroll earlier or enroll at the right age. What other factors, is retarding the progress?
Yes, let me get back to your point about poverty. Sometimes we've asked questions. Within the same community, within the same house, people with the same background circumstances, yet some put their children there, some don't. So yes, poverty might be an issue, but there's more to it than just poverty.
Okay.
In some communities, and there's a research that I just read, the fact that some people can just wait till their children are 6 years old or 7 and walk them straight to primary 1 is an issue. Nearness to school is an issue, distance. The fact that people think that maybe there's somebody at home to take care of their children. So I can leave my child with my mother or with someone at home to take care of. These are all issues. So it's not just poverty. There are others related to that. Distance to school is there, people to take care of children at home. Some don't even want to. They think, oh, okay, I can take care of my child and wait till the child is old enough to enter primary school.
So it's not basically just poverty, but other reasons, other factors compounding to make this problem a big one. But amazingly, at this age, or I can say that we've come so far as our education is concerned, but I'm surprised that we still have schools under trees. Why do we still have schools under trees, Mr. Fako?
Well, that's an interesting one. In spite of the development efforts, you still have some of these situations. It's difficult to kind of address it head on. However, ideally it shouldn't be so.
Right.
But then we still have these situations, and so per the decentralization agenda that government is pursuing, the schools at a point become the district assemblies are responsible for the schools. So in these communities that you have some schools under trees, government through GES working with the assemblies to ensure that they to ensure that the phenomenon of schools under trees become a thing of the past. So basically that is what I have to say. Efforts are being made to ensure that, we put that behind us. Yeah.
So how much progress have we made?
Well, regarding schools under trees, I don't have the statistics with me, so it will be difficult to comment on that. However, I believe that once we can approach the ministry, we will get the accurate figures. Yeah.
Mandeed, I think you wanted to...
Yeah, I want to say that having schools under trees is part of our development challenges.
Okay.
The economy, if the economy were doing so well, maybe that situation will not arise. And sometimes if we could also look at the program Falco lists on, for instance, communication for development, and to get communities to understand that, it's our own children. Leaving them under trees when the community itself can mobilize, and even if it's a shed, to put the children there whilst we wait for the government to come in. So these are some of the efforts that from the UNICEF angle we're tackling. Like how do we communicate to parents to let them also take up some of the responsibilities that the governments, we understand. Farco was right about district assemblies coming in. But if it will take 5 years, 10 years for the district assemblies and the government to come in, what can communities do? What can parents do? That is where sometimes we come in to talk to parents, we talk to community leaders to say, please, they are your own children. Even if you're putting up a shed, it's better than leaving them under trees at the mercy of the weather. When it rains, then there's no class or children sitting the mud. So
I believe you agree with me that when it comes to the issue of preschool or KG for kids, infrastructure alone is not the solution. I heard you enumerate some of the reasons, and you talked about poverty, which does not stand alone, but other factors compounding for us to get to this point. But the issue is with kids, you agree that after putting up the infrastructure, you need to put up things that will attract them to come to school. I won't be surprised when parents will pull their children to school and the children themselves will not want to go to school. So that also becomes a challenge. Do we have enough, for instance, recreational facilities, things to play with, things that actually will attract the children and make them stay in the schools? What has your research shown? Well,
the answer is simply no. We don't have enough. If you look at how we can make schools attractive, get them the teaching and learning materials, get walls that talk. We, in education, say walls that talk because they are nice posters, colors, making the school that's so attractive that the child gets up and wants to go to school. Sometimes you don't have them. Okay. So that one, the answer is simply no. We don't have enough.
Okay. So I believe it's also one of the reasons we're finding ourselves here. Have you considered that as a Ghana Education Service?
Definitely, and that is why we are always ready to partner with organizations like UNICEF and other partners who come on board to support our educational institutions and provide some of the teaching and learning materials as well as play equipment. So yes, it's a major issue that we are also working on.
So it's a major issue you're working on, but I would like to find out if you've made even any attempt to supply the schools that are available with such facilities. I'm not talking about the ones we're planning to build, but the ones we have in the system. Have you done any assessment? Have you been able to equip them with some of these facilities? Because I know that will also go a long way to help.
Yes, it is done. Some of the schools are supplied with play equipment, sports, games, football, and other useful things that they need at their stage for their development. Yes, we do that.
All right, so I would still come back to that because I want specifics. I'll take a break on PM Express, and when I come back, we'll delve more into these issues. Welcome back to PM Express. If you just joined us, we're discussing preschool KG before where children are prepared for the main education, and we've been able to establish that it's very important for children to get that kind of education because that is really the foundation. And I'm in the studio with Madis Adamu from UNICEF and also FACO, who is from the Ghana Education Service. We've been having some interesting conversations there. I'm coming back to you because we've had this challenge for quite some time now. And I would have thought that we would have started this campaign earlier. I mean, why now, Madis?
The campaign has been going on over a long period, so maybe it's now that we're giving
You've intensified.
More prominence and people are hearing about it. Wherever UNICEF has worked over the past 15, 20 years, there's been some campaign, but it's localized.
Okay.
In the past, UNICEF also worked with the Department of Children to do a lot of campaigns. We trained people who went from house to house, from community to community, sensitizing others. But We think that beyond the districts that receive support from UNICEF, we should go further.
Right.
Every Ghanaian community, every Ghanaian village needs information. So we've gone further to push more effort into it. And that is why we supported the Ghana Education Service to even come out with a strategy that will get to everyone in every home in Ghana. We've worked with people in agric, we've worked with market queen mothers, we've worked with traditional leaders, we've worked with faith-based organizations in many, many districts in Ghana, just to get a message across to them that the campaign is important.
Okay.
So it's only that now we've hyped it a little.
You've hyped it, and of course, I would like to look at how. So, Fako, how has the campaign been? I mean, the Enrol Me Now campaign been, and how has the response been? Positive?
Definitely, it has been, because in the communities where we've been working seriously, the collaborative agencies like Mama Madi's mentioned, we have the Ghana Health Service, we have agric extension officers, we have religious leaders, and you have assemblymen, community radio stations, and so on. So these core collaborators have been educated and on the need for right age enrollment, and so in their core mandate, as they do their daily work, they add the right age enrollment message. For example, if an agric extension officer goes to the field, engages the farmer on how to improve crop yield and all that, after that, then you bring in the issue of right age enrollment. How many children do you have? How old are they? Who is in school? Who is next to go to school? And then they send the message. So that is how the strategy has been, and the feedback is impressive, and we are happy, and we are continuing with it.
Madiz, I have a concern. Even though we're doing this campaign, we are getting people to come on board. I mean, it doesn't erase the fact that we're still having schools under trees. We're still having schools that do not have roofings. We're still having some of the challenges I mentioned earlier. We're still having schools that do not have the required or necessary or conducive environment to make it attractive to these young ones. Do you ever believe, from the research you have done, that we would ever get away from schools under trees, for instance?
You see, I want to go back to what Kwame Nkrumah said as far back around 1952, thereabouts.
It's acceptable, we are in September.
When he said, we will educate our children even if we have to do it under trees.
Okay.
I'm not justifying it.
Right.
But sometimes you are faced with the challenge of, do we wait until we get all the things in place before we put the children in school, or do we start from somewhere?
But we started for too long. We need to get somewhere by now.
You know, for the KG part, that's why I said it's sometimes a big challenge. You know, there are villages and communities scattered all over. So there are some communities where you cannot even put up schools because you won't have the full complement.
Right.
I accept the fact that it is unfair even to the children themselves. From a rights perspective, asking a child to sit under a tree, asking a child to sit on the floor, write, or lie on his belly or her belly to write, that is not fair to the child. And for a nation, that's also a bit embarrassing when we get people and we go to schools and we get all this. So I agree with you 100%. All I'm saying is that it will take time, but we need the support of everyone. The government would want to do it in a year. How many can they put up? The minister, you mentioned that the minister talked about a deficit of about over 1,000.
Okay.
There's no way the government can put up all the 1,000 in 1 year or 2 years.
Okay.
Population is growing. So whilst you're filling the gap, the 1,000, you need to also look at population growth and then add a little more. So what can we do from the development partners' point of view, from the NGOs, from communities? So we need a strong mobilization effort.
Okay.
Talk to people, let them understand that, yes, it will get to your turn. in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. As for the government, we all will talk, keep pressing, we advocate, we push that the government does what it has to do. But until it gets to the turn of some people, we need to talk to parents, we need to talk to NGOs, we need to appeal to individuals. Individuals have done it in this country. People from various communities who have constructed schools for their communities. So let us continue to do some of these things whilst waiting for the government to take over and do everything.
Of course, so we'll still wait, we'll do what we can, but government has the bigger responsibility.
Sure.
And we've all admitted in the studio that we need conducive learning environment for these people to be interested in going to school and having that important education we're talking about. In the villages, it's pathetic. People have to walk long distances before they get to school, and all of these are very discouraging. We don't even have the important materials, but the GES says they are making efforts. Let's listen to the Deputy Minister of Education, Dr. Duchum, on some of the plans the ministry has.
The MPP government felt strongly when we were not in power about the importance of early grade education. And when we came to power, we surveyed all primary schools across the country and realized that we have a bit close to 1,171 primary schools without cages. 1,171 primary schools without cages.
That was as at 2016?
2016.
Okay.
So we decided that...
No, that's 2017.
2017. So we have to embark on some construction effort. As I speak with you, there are 72 of them under construction at various stages of construction. We know for a fact that 50 of them will be available in September for occupancy across the country, in various parts of the country. But we are committed, as my minister has said over time, that we are committed to ensuring that every primary school has a KG attached to it, which will ensure that the children of all communities will have access to early grade education provided by the government.
So that was Dr. Educhum explaining what plans are there to address these challenges, and he spoke about 72 schools that are under construction, and he says some of them are supposed to be ready by September. We're already in September, so we'll be asking for the schools. We want to see the infrastructure which the minister is talking about. But Madiz made a very important point, and he called for a strong mobilization effort, Fako. So this means that there must be a lot of collaboration between stakeholders. How has the collaboration been like, and which people have you been collaborating in this exercise?
Yeah, thank you. So still with this right age enrollment campaign and the community mobilization aspect as we've been doing. So the communities, the education office has teams that have been trained. So they go into the communities, especially those that have low enrollments, those that have overaged children in KG and primary one in particular. And so they go into these communities, sensitize them about right age enrollment, and also seek their input as to owning the idea about getting their children to school, and also where they have to support, put in their bit and support what government has. So that has been the strategy at the community level.
Okay, so I know you are partnering with UNICEF.
Yes.
Which other agencies are you partnering with?
For the strategy, is strictly with UNICEF, yes, that is, yeah. But for the other partners also engaged in other aspects of the education, yes. You know, the development partners have their interest and where they
want to.
Yes, so for UNICEF, we are engaging them on the right age enrollment.
Well, an interesting thing that caught my attention was the fact that a 13-year-old girl was in KG. That baffles me how that could happen. I mean, with a 4-year-old girl being her classmate, what do late starters lose Or, I mean, how does it affect those people to be 13 years and to be in KG with a class 4 person as your classmate, a 4-year person, a 4-year child as your classmate? Okay, so you want to deal with that.
In that case, you want to investigate, for example, what might have accounted for that. There could be some reasons. So, for example, if we have instances where visually impaired children, as part of this strategy that we've been embarking on, 12-year-old boy, visually impaired, was found in the community, not going to school, and through the engagement that was done, he was sent to Tamale Teaching Hospital. He had a surgery. Now he's in school. 12 years now in class 1.
That's a special case.
So you may have instances like this.
Okay,
and
but
so
with this girl, she's a normal child, and I mean, we've had more of that, not 13 years per se. This is the first time I'm seeing a 13 years old. But I've seen people who are 6 years, who are supposed to be in class 1, being in KG. So, I mean, what do they lose going to KG at age 6?
Yeah, if I may come in here, what you've described is happening. In Ghana, one of the major challenges we have in education is overage children in school.
Right.
Close to 1/3 or 1/3 of the people are not at the levels where they are supposed to be. And it cuts across all levels. Because if it starts from KG, it goes to primary school,
it's going
junior
to
high school. It's junior high school. I remember some years back, we got some specifications from Ghana Education Service to construct furniture for schools in Afram Plains. And for lower primary, some of the furniture we constructed, the children could not enter because we used a standard specification and they were overage, so they were too big for the furniture we constructed. It happens so. And the question about what do they lose? The first thing is psychological.
Okay.
Imagine a child of 13 or 12 sitting with a child of 4 years in the same class. There are times their colleagues even tease them.
Yes.
Mami Odende, Papa Odende, because they are like they are supposed to be in maybe junior high school, and so it's psychological. The second, another point is, you know, these children sometimes end up, because they get teased, they end up bullying the junior ones. So class control becomes an issue. There are issues related to dropout. They are more likely to drop out than children who enter at their correct ages. We also know that pregnancy, just about 2 weeks ago, the UNICEF supported Girls Education Unit to organize programs in Kumasi for people from all over Ghana. It was on pregnancy. Over the past 3 years, we've had about over 21,000 recorded cases of pregnancy among schoolgirls. And if you go into it, a study that was conducted by Professor Brichum, Brichum, and a team from UCC, as part of the development of the guidelines on pregnancy, showed that in one region, in the Volta region, the oldest girl who got pregnant among us, a schoolgirl, was 24 years old. What is a 24-year-old girl doing in primary school or junior high school?
Should even have completed tertiary education.
Okay, so they are more likely to have challenges as they grow up, pregnancy being one of them.
Yeah.
Then they are more likely to also drop out to go and look for money, because they are at that age where their colleagues are looking for money. Class control is difficult for teachers. So the challenge is at that age, because they are old, they will not listen to instructions. They get
sometimes
embarrassed.
they may even be of the same age with the teacher.
They get embarrassed when teachers punish them. Here, please, punishment here is nothing and losses, corporal punishment. But even rebuking them is an issue. So these are some of the challenges, but it's mainly psychological for the children. And many times they are not able to cope with their studies.
Fako, you want to add on?
Yes, I wanted to say that child psychologists have often said that the first 6 to 8 years of every child is very crucial, in the sense that that is when they develop cognitively, they develop their behavior patterns and emotional well-being. That is when it develops the most. And so if you have a child who misses that and is older and comes to school at that age, what it means is that the child loses that critical period of his or her life to develop those skills and attitudes that he or she needs to function well in future.
Right.
You see, Aisha, if I may also add, you know, even the curriculum that is used in the schools is age specific.
Yeah.
Because if you take kindergarten 1, the curriculum is made for 4-year-olds.
Yes.
So there are a lot of things that do not fit the 13-year-old child who enters. So these are all some of the problems that are created for the 13-year-old.
And the reason why everybody must embrace this campaign, Enroll Me campaign, and you need to go to school at the right age. Let's take another quick break on PM Express. When we come back, we're talking about going to school at the right age. It's PM Express, and the question is, at what age did you enroll your child? What is the right age to start school? And do you even need that kind of education? What's the importance? We're told that it is the foundation. It is what builds you to get to the other levels. And in the studio, we've been having some very, very interesting and educative conversation here. And I have with me two gentlemen who know so much about Enroll Me Now. So we're talking about what percentage we've been able to cover. So where are we now? Because if we don't know where we are, we wouldn't know where we are lacking.
Yes.
So
the net enrollment, that is the indicator of the right age thing we are talking about. So as of now, nationally at the KG, we are at 74.6%, approximately 75%. And that means that we have 25% gap to fill of right age. So in other words, what it means is that 25% of the children in KG are not there at the right age. Yeah, so that is what we are seeking to correct by the right age enrollment campaign, for example.
So Madiz, what has been the difficulty? And you talked about the last 10, getting the last 10 in, which has been a huge challenge. Why do you say so?
Yeah, let me start with the parents. People like you and I, we know the importance of education.
Right.
So we don't even need someone to come to talk to us to send our children to school.
Right.
So if there's someone, let's say in Accra, whose child is not in school, whose child is not in KG, it means the challenge is for the parent, especially in places where the KGs are. Then there are also people in very hard to reach areas, people on farms in the migrant communities. You go to places in Afro Plains where people migrate with their cattle, they are farmers with the seasons, they move from here to there. It's difficult to construct schools everywhere.
Yes.
And so when people are in such hard to reach areas, getting them to allow their children to move from, wherever they are staying to school is a challenge. In a study that, again, I keep mentioning the studies, in a study that I was looking at, in the towns, people don't mind maybe transporting their children from Tema to Accra. So many kilometers, because the transportation network is good, they can do that easily. But in the communities, to allow your 4-year-old, 5-year-old child to go to school, it's not easy.
A very long distance.
For maybe junior high school, you get to some areas and the junior high school is constructed is between two communities. So children from both communities
have to walk long distances.
It's easy for them to do. Primary school, GS regulations say you don't need to walk, how many, is it 3 miles? Not longer than 3 miles, that's about 5 kilometers. That's okay for maybe children in upper primary.
Age.
But for kindergarten, that is not enough.
They are too young to go through that.
So if you want to get them, the last 10% will always be a challenge. We have to use other non-conventional approaches. Whether we are putting 5, 6, 7, 10 children together in the chief's palace, in a church, in any office space where we can give them the needed attention so we prepare them for primary school. These are some of the things. Because we cannot construct schools everywhere there are 4 and 5-year-old children.
Wow, that's amazing. So, of course, now that we are seeing some progress with this Enrol Me Now, at least 75% is encouraging.
Yeah.
Do you have in place some monitoring mechanisms, because we don't want to go back to where we are coming from?
Yes, we engage especially the 20 districts in which UNICEF is operating fully. We engage them consistently, and so we are monitoring the progress being made on a regular basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the strategy like?
Strategy as in?
How do you monitor? Because GES, I know you have offices in the regions, but how do you do the monitoring? Because you can't just sit in your office and claim you are monitoring activities at the various schools.
Yes. They report to us, and we also have specific times that we pay them visits, and also to engage them and find out the real issues on the ground. Yes. Okay. So we have that arrangement that we do regularly. Yeah.
I think it's a very important thing, because if we don't monitor activities, today, for instance, I know in the central region, the second lady commissioned some schools, and there was first day, my first day at school activities.
Yeah.
But beyond the first day, it's very important, because what happens today, we are not assured that it will happen the other days that follows.
Yeah, you see, the way the strategy works and has been designed to work is that, for example, we have identified market queens as a key collaborative agency. Okay. Now, in their local meetings, okay, so they will not meet only in September, for instance. So, for example, next month, October, they will meet. When they discuss their main issues, they bring on board right age enrollment issues as well. Okay. What are the issues that they are facing? And when there is their need, education officers go to them and then address their needs. So these are the arrangements at the grassroots level. Yeah.
Okay, so Madiz, now that we've all agreed that it is important to enroll your child at the right age, how do we encourage people to do this?
For most parents, I think it's become part of them. Because if you look at the 75% success rate, we didn't need to go to every single parent to enroll their children. There are people, and I can use myself as an example. My daughter, my last child, went to creche when she was only 4 months old.
Wow.
Because the mother needed to work. Yeah. But the creche is the social welfare part of it, the nursery before they got there. Okay. So these are things happening on their own. For those who need information, it's going to them, addressing them through their own peers. Sometimes peer pressure works. Okay. That is why we keep talking about partnerships. We keep talking about people, even religious leaders. If you get a pastor who in his church during sermons talks about the need for children to go to school at the right age, he reaches so many people. If you get an imam doing so during maybe Friday prayers, he reaches more people than one education officer can reach. Okay, and that also links with the issue about monitoring that children.
Exactly the point I was coming to.
Thank you. So we need all these people there. In a whole education office, 10 circuit supervisors cannot go to every community. So we want the chiefs, we want the opinion leaders, we want the assemblymen, we want everyone to be involved in this exercise and talk to the people in their communities to let them understand that if you are educating, you are not educating for education office, you are educating for your family, you are educating for your community. So these are some of the strategies we are using. And that is why if you, Falco talked about things that we did. Last year alone, in 20 districts, UNICEF was able to support, a GS to reach over 400,000 champions with information, so that with the Ghana Health Service those who go on outreach programs. As the women come for antenatal clinic, they asking them and talking to them about this. The market queens are doing this. The farmers are doing the agric extension officers. So about 400,000 people that were reached. So it does not become the responsibility of the education sector alone. It becomes a collective responsibility.
And all the stakeholders. So it is a collective responsibility. We all must be involved in educating the people. And of course, the point is we can't go to every nook and cranny of the country to educate people. I mean, if you find yourself in a position to do that, you need to do it, because educating your neighbor is your responsibility. And that's how we wrap up on PM Express tonight. Let's continue the conversation whilst working round the clock to ensure that every child is enrolled at the right age. To you, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to the studio. Madis Adamu Isa is education specialist with UNICEF, and Fako Disu is programs officer and national coordinator, communication for development, basic education division at the Ghana Education Service. That's quite a mouthful. And for you at home, thank you very much for watching. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of our programs.